Lag Force attempts to stave off the Crucible and allow themselves to make a run through the HGC playoffs for BlizzCon and HGC finals. But to do that, they have to defeat Gale Force Esports here, and that is a tall task, KO.
It really is, Gilly, and we have gone through so many games, it's crazy to think that BlizzCon is right around the corner.
I know.
And these guys have a couple more rounds to show their stuff, and then it's going to be off to the playoffs.
Yeah, we're going to have next weekend where every team will play one final match to solidify how our standings will go. And speaking of standings, let's take a look at that and talk about how playoffs will work. We'll have the #1 and #2 teams at the end of next week qualified for HGC finals at BlizzCon. Right now, Team Freedom and Roll20 both making a statement that they want to be those two teams, but Gale Force, it's not out of the realm of possibility that they could end up there. But then playoffs will be 6th place up to 3rd, fighting in a stepladder format to see who will be the 3rd and final team to represent North America at the HGC finals in BlizzCon. And BlizzCon is what it's all about. Everybody wants to be able to play there.
Yeah, that's the true moment of glory. And if you would have told me that Team Freedom and Roll20 would have been at the top of our standings, probably wouldn't have believed you after seeing how good Gale Force and Dominant Tempo Storm was early on in the year. Now things have changed. The landscape is a lot different. We're seeing a lot of all-star plays come out with these mechanical superstars that are making up the likes of Roll20 and Team Freedom, where you got like Glaurung Medivh that's now perma-banned by every team in HGC. So it's pretty crazy seeing all that development.
Yeah, and especially for Gale Force Esports, they have the superstar roster, came in and were the #1 team from North America at the Western Clash, but still not quite finding their footing. And even though they were the first team to even be possibly able to qualify for the HGC finals, they are now being superseded by Roll20 and Team Freedom. But here's their chance to turn that around. Let's hear from Gale Force as well as Lag Force.
Last week, I think we didn't have the best scrim week, and we just had a really weak draft just going into the weekend. Fired us up even more, made everyone just try so much harder. Like, we're at boot camp, we're all trying so much harder here. Scrims are going better. Everyone's talking more in scrims. Like, the atmosphere here is just like super try hard, and I think it's really good for us. Lag Force, I've always respected them as players. I think they have really strong mechanical players. I think they have one of the strongest team fighting rosters in North America. They also have Leon Black, the God. Well, we're definitely expecting to beat them. Hopefully it'll be a 3-0. I think it should be a 3-0 with depending on how this boot camp goes. It's going pretty well so far. I think we're just all really fired up to try really hard right now, so we should be able to win that set.
Hopefully for this weekend we pop off and we beat GFE. I think any team in NA can beat any other team in NA, so like I just think as long as we draft good and we bring our A game, we always have a shot against any team. One of the big changes is that I switched to Warrior. I can shot call a lot easier, and I can choose when we engage and stuff like that. So the miscommunication is definitely a lot lower, so our comms are getting better too. So I definitely think you guys can notice that a lot more inside our play. Going up against Gale Force will be definitely a tough opponent for us, because after the loss, they just did a boot camp, and they're definitely not looking to lose again. So it will be a really good game.
Competing from a boot camp now, Gale Force Esports able to come together and scrim and practice together at that boot camp this whole week. That's got to be a whole different level of Gale Force that we're probably going to see, right?
You know, I actually went and visited them. I was hanging out with them while they were doing their boot camp, and they had a serious setup. They were taking it seriously. Like, they weren't messing around. They were practicing all day. I know they've been stepping up their game, but you heard them say it themselves. They had a rough week of practice, so, you know, that's a scary thing to hear, like, coming out of a boot camp. Obviously, they're in a bit of a hiccup right now. Hopefully, the high volume of play that they got to experience will help them kind of get over that and move forward. And Lag Force, their opponents, are such an unpredictable group right now. To be going up against them, I feel like it's going to be a good sign and indicator of what's to come.
Yeah, and all the way at game #1 will give us a good indication of how this series is going to look for both of these teams. Lag Force obviously needs this win to keep from being in the Crucible along with Even and Death. Let's take a look at what that first battleground will be between these two teams. In our second series of the day, Lag Force has chosen Dragonshire to kick things off. You are immediately excited about this?
Yeah, I'm excited because we're going to see Gale Force, you know, do their thing on this map, even though it was Lag Force that picked it. Honestly, I think Gale Force is going to be more than comfortable on this map. Now, one thing that we heard in the video where Zuna was talking about the fact that he's transitioned more to being the warrior, and he's made a lot of really all-star plays lately. His Murden has been insane as his music ramps up. I feel like I'm getting all amped up talking about Zuna. But Yeah, his warrior play has been great, and he's such a natural leader. So I feel like that's really going to shine through, especially playing on maps like Dragonshire, where there's all that macro play. He's going to be able to call the shots, make the aggressive moves, and make plays.
As an ex-teammate of Zuna's, is it weird to see him be on the warrior role? I mean, I remember back to last year when he was playing warrior in the same way, and then he was like, put me on something that I can carry, and all of a sudden we saw him play Gale at DreamHack Austin. Now he's back. He's taking maybe more of a side role, you would think, but he still has great plays. He's able to, on his Muradin, get in and even get kills for his team.
You know, yeah, Zuna is the guy who will just take the opportunity to be aggressive and just jump right in. Like, he doesn't hesitate. When he knows what he wants to do, he's going to make that play whether you go in with him or not. So being on the warrior, that's a good thing, because if he's the one that's playing the carry, like if he's playing Gale and he decides, I'm going to go in and be aggressive, which we've seen him do before, that can be a little bit scary. If your team's not backing you, if your team's not there, then you're just going to kind of look like a fool. But when he's going to be the one calling the shots and leading his team into the fray, I think it's a good match.
Yeah, it's obviously made a huge difference for this team between Part 1 and Part 2, and that's not the only change that LagForce has made. Having the name change, not being underneath an Eventic organization anymore, they have taken this time to sort of rebrand themselves as a team that isn't as bothered by losses. They don't get quite so affected mentally. They're not as a momentum-based team, or they try not to be a momentum-based team anymore. And we have seen the direct results from that. This is one of the biggest surprises of a team in Part 2 is LagForce.
And what a great rebrand it's been. I mean, who can get mad at that cute little sloth?
Exactly, and the LagF. Having LagF in front of their name,
It's
LagF
beautiful.
Zuna is just my favorite thing. It makes me smile every time I see it.
It feels like it fits this group of dudes, and honestly, like, it just matches their identity, so it always gives me a little smile when I see that name. But to start things off, Gale Force leads off with the Garrosh ban. That's a little peculiar, isn't it?
That is very interesting, and neither of the teams are going to ban Medivh. Very different from the last series,
Mind
LagForce
blown.
banning TAS. It just goes to show how different the meta can be from team to team, or even between inter-teams, teams that know each other, know what teams want to have in the
If you
draft.
can't have protected, by the way, might as well have shield, by the way.
That is true. No shields for Gale Force, at least from Tassadar with that ban. With the first ban of Garrosh, I thought maybe we would see an ETC here from Gale Force, but instead, Gale Force are going to pick up Uther as a first pick.
Uther, okay. So they're keeping it open-ended. They're not really committing to much. They could go for the double support later on in the draft. They could just keep it standard and get a really good dive comp with Uther. We'll see what they try to do, but what this says to me is that they're not really sure what they want yet. They don't quite have the plan, or they're going to wait and react to what LagForce tries to do.
Yeah, they're just getting something that will leave them versatile, but is still a strong pick by itself no matter what ends up happening with LagForce. Doesn't give away too much. We'll see which direction they want to take their draft with the next two picks, but it's up to LagForce now.
Yeah, with Uther having the cleanse, he's got you can go for either option of heroic, where you either get a really aggressive stun, or you can get the D shield to like enable somebody. I mean, you have so many options. There's so many different paths that you can branch off with once you lock in Uther as your support. So versatility, name of the game. Burst healing, they've got it. Got a lot on lockdown, plus when you're on those rotations, you can build up those shields really quickly by just tossing out the Holy Frisbee every time you pass one of those minion waves. But on the other side, LagForce says, okay, we're going aggressive. Genji ETC.
I wondered if this would be what happened from LagForce. LagForce for so long, the entire year, was known as the team fighting team, but a team that could fall behind in rotations in the macro game. And Gale Force Esports, they're known for that macro game, right? They've always been the global team, and in Part 2, so is LagForce. They've been more focused on globals, and ETC might still provide a hand in that with picking a stage dive over a mosh pit, but
yeah.
Space Station Gaming said that they felt like the weakness of Gale Force was team fighting, and if that's an avenue maybe that LagForce can get a lead over Gale Force Esports, maybe we see LagForce take a step back toward team fighting again.
Yeah, or they just try to exploit the vulnerability and just try to do what they do best and go for the macro game.
That's true.
Try to spread out across the map. I mean, Dragonshire is a map that can honestly lend itself to a very aggressive team fighting playstyle, or it can lend itself to spreading yourself a little bit more thin and making sure that you have really good brawl and tools to sort of, rotate around, aka globals. So let's see what they go for. Dahaka, it looks like maybe they are going for more of that split style. Dahaka, very great to have on Dragonshire. For one, you can just tunnel down to the other shrine, which is very important to do, especially when you're trying to contest and control both. But as a solo laner, he has such sustain as well that he feels very comfortable when you kind of leave lane and you take that risk of going up around the corner. You come into the shrine pit where you're pretty vulnerable, right? But as Dahaka, with all those extra tools, you have the essence saved up, you can burrow. You always feel like, I can get out of this, right?
And maybe now LagForce will try to get Malthael as a way of countering that Dahaka on the top, unless Galeforce wants to ban it. Malthael's been one of the favored picks for B-Kids, so unless Galeforce wanted to limit globals, a Falstad maybe is an option against Dahaka, but LagForce felt like they needed to try to take away Ariel, seeing Vala and Uther already from Galeforce Esports. You mentioned it, potential double support.
I think it was a smart ban, to be honest. I mean, you're taking away one of the crucial synergies that comp is trying to develop already. How do you feel that, you know, is Vala going to go for the Hungering Arrow build this game? Has that become the pretty much 100% standard?
You know, I don't know if she wants to continue a multi-shot for the spread damage, but seeing a Genji, I'm thinking that it'll be Hungering Arrow build. She can also be a good murking presence when having that too because of Monster Hunter at level 1.
That's true, and this map really is one of those ones that, like, having that dude who can just split off and go do a camp real quick is a huge asset to have.
It is.
Oftentimes, you can't pull your whole team over to do a camp. It's not like most maps where it's like, we just time, you know, the night camp for whatever amount of time, and then it's going to push during the objective. The objective is always up on Dragonshire, basically. So, like, having one person split off and do that is so much more important. Yeah,
it is really good. That's why you see a lot of Grey mains sometimes. You'll see a melee assassin who can handle themselves with the camps. But what do you think of Zagara? I'm interested. You've seen the B-Kid Zagara in full force, right?
I have, yes.
Okay.
And honestly, it kind of hurts my soul every time. I sort of consider to myself, maybe I should go back to playing competitive now that Zagara is the thing again.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to hear. I've heard many a tale of your Zagara, KO.
It is a little bit legendary, okay? Humble brag. But back to the task at hand. The real pros here, locking in Chromie and Rhaegar. So taking a hard left turn there away from the Zagara and instead going to get the Bursty Mage. Now, Chromie and Genji are a cool combination because Chromie hits them with the big burst combo, puts him down at that like 30% mark. Perfect for Genji to just pop in, hit him with the Dragon Blade, get that finish, another reset.
ETC locking him down the whole time. You've got Earth Grasp Totems holding him down from Rhaegar too, if that's the choice of talent.
Yeah.
Final 2 picks for Galeforce Esports. Still waiting on King Caffeine's Warrior of choice. ETC no longer available in Garrosh banned, potentially a Murden. Maybe we get Leoric here. Maybe this is it. King Caffeine's Leoric.
Please, one time, NA. Please.
Nope.
Johanna again.
Johanna and Lucio. Another double support.
As Hooligan would say, drop the beat, Galeforce. I believe in you. Are you going to be the better force, or is it going to be LagForce that proves to be the dominant force?
This is almost like the tongue twister weekend for casters. Yesterday was Space Station versus Superstars. This time it's the battle of forces between Galeforce, LagForce. One's going to be LagAF, and one's going to be GFE. And that's
I think that's a good idea. Keep our sanity under control. So it is going to be Malthael locked in as the last pick for LagForce. So, you know, they have the Sloth icon, but this is an aggressive composition. They're going to be trying to get in there, get those kills. Now they've got the Malthael to just cut down the Johanna Dahaka combination. That front line is going to be really hurting.
Yeah, Malthael versus Dahaka in the top lane too as a top laner. We've got Genji who can rotate around for LagForce to try to get ganks somewhere. Chromie and Rhaegar doing their thing in Dragonshire means they're going to be in the bottom just holding off the pressure in that lane, and they're going to be needed. They've got to land those skill shots because there's going to be a lot of pressure coming in from the double support Vala Johanna stylings of Galeforce Esports.
Yeah, so it feels like we're seeing 2 different styles of composition. Galeforce is going to run more of the standard way to play Dragonshire, where you've got that 4-man that's controlling most of the map, and then Dahaka will be ready to make something happen when the big team fight comes out. Meanwhile, LagForce is saying, we're going to play a little bit more of a scrappy style. They've got the Chromie to sort of hit the unexpected, unpredictable damage that you don't know is coming when Genji could be in the bush waiting to get the reset, so you never quite feel safe. So Galeforce is going to be kept on their toes most of this game. LagForce, though, if they can't find those opportunities to get pickoffs and make assassinations with Genji, all of a sudden they're going to lose control of the map very quickly.
Yeah, it's LagForce's battleground choice, so it's on them to make sure they get a victory in Game 1 versus Galeforce Esports. Let's get to it.
All right, on the left-hand side, the blue team is going to be LagForce. Zuna going to be rocking out on ETC. A big impact is going to be on Chromie. Tomster playing Rhaegar. B-Kid on Malthael. and iDream on Genji.
And the members of Gale Force Esports, they'll be in the red this match. Michael Udall playing his Dahaka up in the top. Fan will be playing Vala. King Caffeine playing Johanna. K1 Pro will be back on Uther. We saw that a while back, a few weeks ago. And finally, Akaface playing Lucio.
Maybe representative of the boot camp results there, King Caff with the Cloud mount. And the very angry emotions coming out today, but let's see who takes the early open here in this level 1 engage in mid. I assume that Lag Force is probably going to be taking their time here, not really looking to go all out with the brawl. But then again, with Zuna on Warrior, you really never know. He might just pull the trigger. Yeah, he would love to get some setups for Biggie to start landing Sandblast and starting that scaling up of the ability. As King Caffeine goes in with the Condemn to set up to take out the minion wave, and he will do very well. Gale Force Esports starts the faster rotation. And on the note of the angry Cloud mount with Johanna, King Caffeine is not a big Johanna fan. He's never really been a big Johanna fan. And at the Western Clash, he played a Johanna and busted out the angry Cloud mount, and I was like, I bet that this is indicative of his feelings of having to play Johanna. Okay.
I asked him afterward, he was like, yeah, I was not happy. I told the admin, this mount, this is how I feel about playing Johanna. So he's not thrilled to be on Johanna, but it makes a lot of sense because of how good her wave clear is on Dragonshire.
Yeah, it makes sense, man. The team drafter puts you on a character you don't like Johanna. For him, it's just like, urgh. And when I played, we didn't have all these cool mounts to choose from. We just had the Toaster Horse and, one or two other little options.
That's true.
There wasn't as many.
It's a whole new world. Sprays, banners.
I miss being able to drop those little, those little B steps. Now it's so much more creative.
Yeah, there's so many ways to taunt your opponent, especially when you're Medivh.
That's very true. So up here in the mid, we see a little bit of a 2 versus 2 slap fight going on here between Zuna, iDream, Akaface, and King Caff. For now, Gale Force controlling both of the shrines. And this is what I was talking about, Gilly. Right now, Lag Force find themselves in a difficult situation because they weren't able to get any kills early on. And when you have a Genji roaming around the map, Genji needs to be making plays. But for now, Lag Force is able to get top thanks to that favorable matchup that they have with Malthael versus Dahaka.
Yeah, that's the idea for Lag Force, is because they have Genji and he can come in for ganks. Malthael, top lane is the focus of Lag Force. They need to just slow down the rotations mid-bot from Gale Force as best they can. But Michael Udall's doing a pretty good job of not making it easy for BKid, not a guaranteed pick, especially the way he's been dragging him back into towers pretty consistently in this matchup.
Down here at bottom, Big E looking for those snipes, but Fan's not afraid. Look at how far he's just stepping up. He doesn't even care, man. He knows he can juke these shots all day. He's been training hard. Oh, that was actually kind of cool. Stepped on the stasis there just in time to dodge the damage. K1 Pro is there to back him up, make sure nothing is going to be a problem for him. Between Uther and Lucio, you get the perfect mixture of healing. You've got the slow, steady, creeping healing from Akaface and the big burst from Uther when the Chromie combo does inevitably hit.
Yeah, Big E has been throwing out Sandblast and then just not timing up right with the time trap. And there is a talent at level 4 that you can get Timely Surprise that resets your cooldowns of your abilities, but not choosing that, it seems like for the most part, Bronze Challenge is just way too good to give up. But Gale Force Esports has been doing exactly what they need to with this Vala double support. Fan playing aggressively, echoing out or imitating Xingxi, as he is a big fan of Xingxi and how he played Vala at the mid-season brawl.
So down here, Chromie still fishing for any snipes that he can get. Finally starting to connect a little bit. And now that he has Bronze Talons, he can be a lot more confident with his poke, right? Because early on in the game, you're purely reliant on that Sandblast damage. But then once you get that talent, the empowered auto attacks every time you Sandblast allow you to just be a little bit braver. Whoa! Akaface with a very, very pretty sound wave there to knock back Zuna and save Chromie. I mean, not Chromie there, it was Fan.
It was an immediate and necessary because Zuna was coming in very fast on the upswing for Akaface to keep Fan alive, and this allows Gale Force to continue pressuring out this top lane. But BKid is doing his job in the top, holding on to the shrine and keeping up. Importantly, Lag Force, BKid hasn't really come under any pressure. Gale Force is way more focused on the bottom lane, but that's working out for them too. Both styles are working out in what they need to do, but it's Gale Force who may start to get ahead because of the structural damage they've been able to do.
Yeah, well, Gale Force is starting to push down here at bottom. I wonder if at top lane eventually Malthael is going to be able to start bullying out Dahaka and draining some of that ammo just by pushing the waves in constantly.
Yeah.
Might see that start to develop. So it's going to be a bit of a trade on the mismatches on either side of the map. iDream pops in to look for a little bit of damage. Actiface is getting very low. Not sure if that power slide is still available. Oh, his fate is sealed, surely. Big E, though, has got to be careful. Luckily, that Hungry Arrow did not connect from Fan, but Michael Udall has come all the way from the north, jumped in. Fan gets hit real hard. iDream with the reset there after the Sandblast. Can they get any more? I don't think so. Johanna's shield making sure everybody is able to pick it up and leave. But now Lag Force with control of the map. Can they get the Dragonite?
I think so. Nobody in position to stop iDream from getting that, and that is all that was necessary. Lag Force gets the first kill on Akaface. After that, Dahaka comes down, making sure that Malthael can get top and then start to move down in position if necessary for the fight or to mid. But the big deal was, just like you said, the synergy between Genji and Chromie. Chromie to drop bombs, get Fan low enough that Genji could finish off that kill. Now the Dragon Knight is going up to the top lane to open up the fort so that B-Kid can even make it harder for Michael Udall to deal with this matchup that's already difficult for him. So favoring the winning trade for them.
iDream using the rest of the Dragon Knight here just to keep poking down the rest of these structures, get as much value as he can. GFE has found themselves completely clumped here up on top lane, not wanting to lose any more of this damage. But now Lag Force has their level 10s. You can see they're posturing here. They want to pick up these camps the second that the Dragon Knight expires, which it just did. So now Lag Force, I like what they're doing. They're keeping momentum here by making sure that they instantly get these two camps, and they're going to have the upper hand here now in pushing out. Gale Force identifies this, and they themselves are just going to go ahead and pick up a couple camps. But you know, now it's going to be the race of who can push the hardest with these Knights and Giants.
Looking at Fan's build, we do have a multi-shot build over Hungry Arrow that we thought might be there to help out with this mercenary pressure, but Gale Force still able to get the top camp to help Dahaka versus B-Kid and their camp. But in getting both, Lag Force using the Dragon Knight and just the threat of the Dragon Knight to be able to do more damage can push simultaneously in top and bot, and this is helping to mitigate some of the damage that they took in the bottom lane. We're still waiting on ETC's heroic ability. Same for Vala. Vala, of course, waiting to see if she needs to take Rain of Vengeance to deal with the mosh pit.
This is always the game of cat and mouse here. Who's going to pick the first heroic and then who's going to counter it? But the action's heating up. They're going to have to commit to a heroic soon. Zuna choosing to back out. That power slide is down. Zuna is very lucky Michael Udall didn't turn on him there, but Michael Udall is going to get the drag on Topster. The follow-up from King Cap. Now Fan is just roaring into this team fight with a strafe. Going to go ahead and take down Rhaegar at the beginning of that. Really nice capitalization there on the fact that Zuna stayed too long in that pit. He didn't have his team with him. He didn't have the positioning to really commit to that. So when he power slides away, he uses his big peel tool. And with that being down, Gale Force knew that they could move in really hard. Now they're going to be pressuring out bottom. They have the Giants advantage down here. Things are looking good. And Rhaegar was the perfect target for Gale Force Esports to go after with Chromie having timeout and Genji, all of the mobility options that he has. Rhaegar can't Ancestral himself or can't cleanse himself, so Rhaegar really is the best target for Gale Force Esports to hope for off of the Blessed Shield and the drag that Dahaka had. The whole time, B-Kid never left top, and Michael Udall did stock down, so that gives the top fort and the first fort of the game over to Lag Force to take out, and that still means that they have a level lead. That's a good point, Gilly. How do you feel about the fact that ETC went for stage dive here? I mean, we were talking about that kind of helping them deal with the macro-centric Gale Force Esports a little bit, but not having that mosh pit leaves them very low on any sort of control. They don't have any good stuns outside of the power slide. I was wondering if maybe we were going to see a change-up and have the team stick with Malthael and then Zuna use that global now that he took it. But it does seem strange. It is a smaller battleground, a lot of chokes, a lot of potential places for Zuna to get mosh pits, especially around the Giants. But maybe the issue is that there's just going to be too many ways to deal with it. As long as one of the supports was out, you can have a Divine Shield on the target, Sound Barrier, and then Johanna and a potential Rain of Vengeance from Vala to deal with the mosh. I was fully expecting a mosh. I'm a little bit concerned about the control too. What are your thoughts on it? Well, I mean, the big thing that it gives them is any of these lanes where Gale Force loses a fort, they can no longer be safe to push out at all because a stage dive is going to almost certainly guarantee a kill. Like right now, if Zuna wanted to go top lane, it is a Dahaka, so it'd be a little more difficult, but he can most likely get that kill up there.
Yeah, and Genji can posture as a way of making sure that it's even a 3-for-1 to try to get those picks. That's a good point.
So right now it looks like Genji got a little bit of trade with Johanna middle, but the real action is going on down here at bottom. While Lag Force wants to make sure that they protect this bottom now that they have the slowing sands. It's very, very difficult for Gale Force to make any sort of aggressive moves down here unless Dahaka were to dig down here. And then, of course, ETC, you know, he'll have, well, he won't be able to match because he's right here with the rest of the team. But look at this. iDream already has managed to get Johanna surprisingly low. Yeah,
and Iron Skin was used. Hamster's coming up. Malthael was able to get top. Dahaka can't deal with the 1v1 versus Malthael. It was a perfect setup for Lag Force in this laning phase to be able to get the next Dragonite. They'll start working down here in the mid, these structures too.
And a collapse for the rest of Lag F here as they want to come down and join up with the Dragonite. For now, iDream seems a little bit confused about what he wants to do with this. Some shot call action going on for Lag F right now as they're deciding what they want to do to make their play. Is iDream going to just walk into this? No, he's taking a lot of free damage here, it seems like, which I'm surprised.
Yeah, some miscommunication about where they were wanting to siege with everyone else. The Dragonite's going to go bottom, but bottom is ideal. The more that they can get done with the top and the bottom lane.
Lag Force wants 16. That's what. That's probably where this hesitation is coming from. But honestly, it feels like a bit of a misplay of the situation. At least, you know, in Gale Force handling it very well. Like they've managed to completely chunk down this Dragonite, who's gotten essentially 0 value, while Lag Force has been rotating, you know, between mid and bottom this whole time, not really accomplishing much.
Here it is. So EGC is going to go to the top, the two globals in the top. Malthael can hang out around with the rest of the team and siege down this fort. With 16, there's no way that Gale Force wants to try to defend that. Another fort goes down. Lag Force were maybe set up in a way to try to siege down both of the forts, but favoring making sure that they had 16 over maybe making a too far advancement toward Gale Force and getting punished for it.
They did get the fort in the end, so maybe, you know, hashtag calculated. They did know what they were doing there and figured it out. They got some value, they're furthering their lead, but the lead isn't significant enough that once Gale Force Esports hits level 16 themselves, they can't take a fight. They certainly still very much can. Lag Force might be level 17.5 or so, but that's totally fine. That's a reasonable matchup.
Yeah, things will be really nice too once 16 is here for the team. Rejuvenescencia or more healing of some regard for Lucio. That's really when he starts to have a lot of healing to deal with the potential damage output of having a Malthael and Genji together. Malthael to set up the Dragon Blades, but this has been a pretty rotation-heavy game. Not so much about the full 5-on-5 team fights, a lot more about trying to see who can get the edge in the rotations. And even though Dahaka was the starting global, and there was no global for Lag Force until they had Heroics and Stage Dive, Lag Force has been set up really well for these Dragonite phases.
That's a good point. And when Lag Force tries to get these engages here, pay attention to Sound Barrier. It's going to be really crucial for Sound Barrier to eat up tons of that Soul Torrent damage that Malthael is going to be putting out when he jumps into the entire team. I think it's actually maybe a good answer to Torment of Souls. You know, you drop the Sound Barrier, you have that huge extra buffer to keep you going in the fight a lot longer and wait out that cooldown.
Yeah, that has been the
nice
general drag hits, but Stage Dive is there too. Michael Udall is a target. He uses adaptation early on, is going to burrow to ensure that the heal's there. Follow-up, Slowing Sands is the destruction of Dahaka, and it couldn't be at a worse time, KO, because we've got Shrines spawning now, and without having their global, Gale Force Esports is not just down a man, they're down someone who can rotate quickly between the shrines.
That's gotta hurt. I mean, Michael Udall has got to be sitting there being like, oh, I should have backed out just a little bit sooner. But then again, it was crazy. Lag Force was just like, came out of nowhere. And then all of a sudden, the entire team was on top of Michael Udall. So it can happen that fast.
That's what happens when you've got a Genji and an ETC with Stage Dive. You never know where they will be.
Just coming out of the woodworks. But for now, Gale Force, they are about to get Dahaka back up, who can immediately dig to where the action is, mind you. So he's going to have the opportunity to come back in while the rest of Lag Force is trying to rotate up to this point. Johanna has snuck up to top lane. Nice move there by King Calf. His team trusted him to buy the extra time. But so far, this duel between iDream and King Calf has been going in the favor of iDream, and this time B-Kid shows up. That's going to start hurting real quick.
He does use Iron Skin fairly on, and he has talented into having increased shielding since Johanna has been a fairly often focused target, even getting movement speed with Fanaticism at 16. But forcing Johanna to go up to the top, there's still bruisers pushing in the top lane. B-Kid's gonna start channeling this. Nobody notices in time, nobody stops this Dragon Knight. And LagForce with a level advantage over Galeforce Esports to get the 3rd Dragon Knight in a row.
A little bit of oversight
that
there.
Timing.
GFE gets dismantled here as Zuna with a perfect stage dive there. Now the slowing sands actually might net them a kill on Michael Udall, but the adaptation goes off in time, which is going to top him off no problem. Meanwhile, the Dragon Knight is starting to beat down the wall here of the keep in mid lane. And that's going to be something Galeforce has to deal with ASAP.
Kale, I am so impressed by LagForce. That is a no-go zone that you go to. The Death Bridge on Dragonshire, that is not where you are allowed to get
no
ganked.
fear, we're going in.
No, they timed the stage dive and then Swift Strike absolutely perfectly. That was beautiful from LagForce. But then knowing that they have slowing sands to help them with the disengage, the confidence that they had to capture and kill Johanna there while the Dragon Knight was pushing, which meant they didn't have B-Kid at the same time. Really good stuff from LagForce in this game 1.
I mean, I don't even care if it's just a solo Gazlo sitting on that bridge and I've got my whole team. I'm not touching that.
No.
The Bridge of Death is just off limits.
It's called the Bridge of Death for a reason. You don't go on it.
That's right.
But knowing that they had slowing sands, they disengage and willing to go there, that's LagForce and the experience that they have as players for a long time, being willing to take these kinds of risks, take these kinds of chances, and be able to maybe win the first game versus Galeforce. They're definitely looking like they're on their way.
And that's Zuna on Warriors. That's what I was talking about. Like, Zuna sees the play and just like, he's in. Like,
maybe that's why we have the stage dive instead of mosh pit for him too.
That's true, but oh man, Zuna's so good. Like, he's that dude who can hit the perfect mosh pit, right? Like, he just knows exactly when. He'll do like the standstill mosh where he doesn't even follow up a power slide. He just pops mosh randomly and you're like, oh my god, you perfectly got 5 people. How did you do that? And he just does that, regularly. So,
Kale, what has happened that has kind of led to LagForce being in the dominant position that they are in Game 1? Because it started out and there was a lot of damage happening in the bot lane too, or from Galeforce.
Yeah, so, I mean, thus far in the game, pretty much what's been working the best is the fact that LagForce can win that trade against Dahaka up in the top lane with the Malthael, and constantly we're seeing these 2 beefy tanks, Dahaka and the Johanna, just getting completely chunked out. They can't trade with all the damage that LagF has. So anytime, Dahaka's trading with Malthael, he's slowly losing that fight. Anytime that Johanna is trading with Genji, he's slowly losing that fight. How do you deal with that? You have to, at some point, come together and just force the team fight because you're losing in so many different ways.
Yeah, it's weird because it seems like, again, we're having a team who is favoring globals, who wants to use them just to try to out-rotate their opponents. But with Dahaka, it hasn't really been there because using a Dragon Knight early on to take down towers up in the top lane, where Malthael was already very strong, only further enables Malthael to win that matchup. And Dahaka is kept topside for so long until he is forced to either trade and go blow for blows on the temple or on the altar, which did not work out well for him at all on the shrine when that was happening.
Did not.
No. And then otherwise, if he comes in, if he stalks in, he has to make it count. And when they do stalk in, they might get some, they did get the pick on Tomster, but B-Kid just did so much at that time. The top lane has been a big problem for Galeforce Esports. We're going back into the game. We'll see if LagForce can close out the game with their 20 and with the Dragon Knight.
That's something I actually would have liked to see more, though, the tunnels from Dahaka and jumping down there, trying to force the issue rather than sort of just slowly lose that battle of attrition versus Malthael, which seems to be just not doing the trick for them.
Well, now 20 is here. Chromie already had her 18. She did get Piercing Sands to go along with her Sandblast. She's at 39 stacks right now, so still far off from having the echo that you get after hitting 80 heroes.
It's so many stacks.
It is a lot of stacks.
But this is a map that I could actually see it happening.
Oh, wow.
What
This
do you
is
see?
risky, but Zuna's holding on, knowing that Galeforce, they are not 20 yet. Yeah.
They're doing the good old stack-up play, where he's waiting to cap once the rest of this Nightwave is here to be that frontline shield. Then you've got a quad giant behind it instead of just staggering the 2 giants in by themselves at the beginning. He could have even been maybe a little bit more patient on it. But anyways, this is going to accomplish what they want anyways, and it's going to get a lot of value down here. This is a huge Conga line of minions coming into GFE's keep here. What are they going to do about it? They're not 20.
It's such an old school play, but that's what we get when we see Lag Force play these old school types of strategies, still being able to work in the right situations all the time. Chromie is going to be dropping her Sandblast and the Dragon's Breath, hoping to find somebody, catch somebody who wants to defend, and making things scary for those who do defend, along with the ETC, who might find somebody with a great power slide. The keep is gone. Dahaka using bruisers to siege top, hoping to get Gale Force 20 for what could be the final Dragon Knight phase, especially with the keep down.
So that did look like a bad situation, but if we zoom out a little bit and think about it, Gale Force is going to achieve level 20 versus level 20 in a game, but they're just down a keep. It's not that bad. It's really not that bad. I mean, they're going to be down a little bit in stats because of the 21 now, but overall they find themselves in just a normal late game, a pretty tied late game, despite losing pretty much all of the early and mid game, all the objectives at least for sure.
Yeah, they're even going to be aggressive here in the bottom lane, since that is the place where they'll eventually have catapults pressuring. That does let them get the bottom shrine. ETC's up in the top, and there's a bruiser camp that at some point will cause problems for Gale Force, but Gale Force has focused their energy in this bottom lane. A couple of Storm talents to point out. No Apex Predator for Dahaka, instead getting Essence Claws. He has been a lot of the focus, and even getting Adaptation, even though he's up against a Malthael who has the healing reduction of Touch of Death. Oh, calf.
Denied every time, man. Hack-a-face. Just dropping the beat left and right, not letting Zuna have any fun.
Here's the deal, though. Bruiser's in the top, and top's already been grabbed by Lag Force. Eventually, if someone has to go back to this, then Lag Force can make a play with the man advantage in the bottom lane. It's only a matter of time, so Lag Force are just sort of tempting Gale Force, but never really giving them the fight.
This is a tense situation here. Either team, oh my gosh, man, is so far out right now. The Desolate Sands making sure that he's going to be safe. My heart stopped for a second, Gilly. I'm not going to lie. That was close.
I heard it. Oh, Clint gets Biggie back. B-Kid ready to go. Tormented Souls has been used, but everyone from Gale Force disengages out of it. There comes the stage dive. Immediate Condemn stops him from that, but everyone from Lag Force is ready for the engage. Sound barrier has been dropped from Gale Force Esports, trying to keep the members alive. Michael Udall is the target, healing himself back up for now, but he still was in the middle of the final curtain and he cannot get away.
Michael Udall was just absolutely melting there. The D-Shield had to be used. iDream just with the infinite Dragon Blade here, cleaning up everyone on the side of GFE. 2. And that's going to be 3 and 4, and they should even be able to get the 5th. A 5-0 team wipe, despite Uther's going to... This is going to be a 6-0 team fight to seal the deal here.
Oh, poor K1 Pro just wanted to get the 1 kill on Chromie before the end, but even that will be denied.
It always hurts my soul a little bit to see K1 play like Uther.
Yeah.
I just...
Not a Jaina.
You know, he tries to use the Holy Frisbee like a mage, you know, and like snipe those skill shots, but it's just not the same, man. It's just not the same. Gale Force Esports marches down into the main base of GFE, and in this game one at least, it's Lag Force that is proving to be the dominant force.
Lag Force gets a victory on Dragonshire, the very first game in this best of 5, but it was a battleground chosen by them. As a reminder, Lag Force needs this victory over Gale Force Esports because Superstars defeated Space Station yesterday, and they get game 1. That's gotta be a good feeling for Lag Force. They played Dragonshire so well. They played to their composition, and they knew what they needed to do versus Gale Forces.
Yeah, they seemed really in control. Like, their decision-making was very decisive. I'm curious to ask Zuna more about why he would go stage dive over Mosh Pit in that scenario, because to us, I mean, I think we were both kind of question marking about that, but it worked really well, and we saw some of the flashiest plays of the game, like that pick-off on Michael Udall on the Bridge of Death. That was so awesome. Like, they just pull the trigger, they trust each other, and it's very clear that they're just committing as a team to get those pickoffs.
Yeah, and they did so much with every single pick that they did get. Like at the Bridge of Death, taking out a Dahaka at one point forces King Caffeine to go top, and then it was like, iDream, you're on calf duty. Wherever Johanna goes, you're harassing the Johanna. Try to force out an Iron Skin, right? Malthael, B-Kid, you're wherever Dahaka is. Of course, forcing him to burn that essence, maybe even use an adaptation. And those matchups, the way they were like playing defense, man-to-man defense
exactly
in basketball, it was just like so great. Dredge should be so proud of me. I made a sports reference.
Sports ball reference from Gilly. Well done. But yeah, it was like man coverage. That's exactly what we saw there. I have never seen that before, where it's just like your entire existence is dedicated to harassing this player.
Yeah, and then rotations, man, having a Dragon Knight, holding off on the Dragon Knight, keeping it back, not taking extra damage so that everyone else gets into a position that you get the double camp so they can siege bottom where the pressure was under. Things looked good for Lag Force.
Yeah, and it leaves a big question of like, what's going